I'm gonna drop off for 5 minutes till I can drive into cell service. I'm leaving my house to drive to swim, so I'll be
Okay,
back as soon as I can.
all right, that's fine.
All right, thanks.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Braintree Select Board. It is October 15th, 2025, and our agenda this evening is largely, if not entirely, related to reviewing the zoning bylaw draft that was transmitted to us from the Planning Commission earlier this month. And this is not our formal hearing regarding the bylaw. This is just a planning meeting for the select board to determine how it wants to move forward. Given the somewhat, rigid meeting and notice and warning requirements related to this process and the how revisions need to work in terms of the hearing and various meetings and re-involving the planning commission and things like that. So I was hoping that Kyle would join us from Two Rivers, but I don't see him on. I see Jackson is here from the planning commission. And Grace is here as our zoning administrator. But I guess I'll open it up for discussion. Yeah, yeah. But I'm gonna just lay out maybe some brief options that I see in terms of how we could proceed. Everything kind of hinging on the fact that if we do not complete this process by December 31st, by the end of this calendar year, then we forego having the match requirement of the grant that we have received to support this work. And so that is roughly, I think, Paul, you had reported last meeting that that was just over $1,500. So, that would be the risk involved with not completing the process by then. So, that's one factor. The other factor is that, like I said in the beginning, there's some pretty, robust, notice and warning and comment requirements and things like that related to um, finalizing the bylaw. So we just need to be really cognizant of the timeline. But I think that there's a few options that we have. We do have a hearing scheduled for November 4th. Our official notice of that hearing is being posted in the Randolph Herald tomorrow. So whatever draft is available to the public as of tomorrow is the draft that's kind of locked until the November 4th hearing. So if we wanted to make any revisions to the bylaw this evening for the public to consider during the November 4th evening meeting hearing, we can do that this evening before tomorrow. We can also choose to just have a hearing based on the draft of the bylaw that was transmitted to us from the planning commission. And or we could also opt to plan to make more extensive revisions to the bylaw that would not be conducive to the timeline of finishing everything by December 31st. So I think those are kind of our options, is move forward with the draft that was given to us, make revisions this evening that the public could review at the November 4th hearing, or choose to do additional work that would probably lead us to not getting the match forgiven in the grant. So I'll open it up to see if there's any other comments or ideas for how we should move forward.
Hi, this is Lou. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Lou.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I've got pretty challenging technical incapacity here, so I apologize if I'm a little rugged around the edges. But so I have participated in a number of the Planning Commission meetings that have led to this draft. it is an arduous process that has been undertaken by the Planning Commission that has resulted in this draft. I don't think anybody would say that it is perfect, but the Planning Commission certainly took a lot of steps with Kyle's support and guidance to at least bring our old zoning ordinance into substantially greater compliance with new Vermont laws involving zoning ordinances. So having been involved with some of this, it's an arduous process. The Planning Commission has done a lot of work. They've taken a lot of public comment. My thinking is that we should look at this draft and hear the public's comments on it, and then hopefully be able to adopt this draft with an understanding that it is not perfect and that we may in the future need to continue our process. But I feel like with the adjustments that the Planning Commission has made to bring us into compliance, we should get as close into compliance as we can, as quickly as we can, and then continue work as necessary, while also saving the town the roughly $1,600 worth of match money as well. So there are kind of two reasons that I'm inclined toward the option, Megan, that you put forth about moving toward our public hearing, and hearing the public's comments. If we hear big comments that require major changes, well, then we would do major changes and forego the grant waiver, or sorry, the match waiver. But if not, and we can move forward, step by step, adopt this draft, and then move forward into the future, I think that could be advantageous to everyone in town.
Thanks, Lou. Does anyone have any other thoughts? Any other members of the select board have feelings about? Do you agree with Lou? Do you have other paths that you want to pursue?
I agree with Lou.
Thanks, Chelsea. I think we lost Dan due to. Oh, I have to let him back into the meeting. That was my fault. Sorry.
He left the news.
Sorry, Dan. I didn't let you back in. So Dan, we were just talking, I don't know if you can hear us, but we were
Yeah.
just talking about the options, and Lou is proposing the option of moving forward with the bylaw draft that the Planning Commission submitted to the select board, presenting that to the public at our November 4th hearing, recognizing that it's a significant step in the right direction, and has a lot of really important revisions. And reflects a lot of thoughtful work, and then potentially pursuing an additional look at the bylaw after this version is kind of finalized and goes through the process so that we can receive the match.
That makes sense to me. It also buys you a longer window if there are significant revisions that need to happen.
Yeah. Lauren, any?
No,
Okay.
really keep the ball rolling, I guess.
Okay. I did take a look at the bylaw over the weekend, and I had sent around a draft with, I think, as I described, just some really minor revisions that I was trying to stay within the realm of just clarifying changes and not substantive changes. But I'm willing to kind of set that aside, and we could just move forward with the draft that was submitted to us by the planning commission. I didn't, catch any red flags. I think there's, just based on some, previous experience, following along with some of the matters that the DRB has had before them. There's some sections of the bylaw that could use some clarification, just based on some recent fact patterns that the DRB has had to analyze against the bylaw. But those things can wait for another crack at the process after this version is finalized. So I'm okay waiting. And I'm wondering if anyone else has had a chance to read through it and has had a different take, like caught any red flags that would be, a serious issue in terms of finalizing the draft now or before the end of the year.
I don't, again, it's not perfect. I don't think there's a perfect zoning ordinance in the world. But they can all use continued improvements. Megan, my sense of your changes are that they are all non-substantive and we're just clarifying. What I can't recall is, are there components of the items that you identified that would require, that you think require discussion by the select board in order to incorporate them into the draft? I think if we could incorporate your clarifying language, I think that could be helpful to, as Lauren just said, keeping the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think just in reflecting on my review, I think the only thing that I flagged that may border on substantive or might warrant discussion, I think surrounds my confusion related to the revisions in the exemption list that appears pretty early on in the bylaw in section 2.2 as it relates to campers or RVs and their placement on a property. There's two different provisions that kind of address those. And I can share my screen on Zoom if that would be helpful so that everyone can follow along. But that was really the only thing that I flagged that I think maybe I had made a substantive change regarding. And I don't know if folks can see my screen or not. But
I had a note about 2.2 also, number 19, the wording on that one just kept getting to me. I was having a really hard time parsing that out. And it might just be me and the way I was reading it, but the number 19 on those exemptions was hard for me to work through in my head.
oh, the accessory dwelling unit one.
Yeah, I think I got around to it. It was just, I think I understand what it is. It's just hard for me to visualize it, I guess, as I was reading it.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I had to read that one a few times too. I think that has to do with yeah, basically creating an accessory dwelling unit within a single family home where you're not, changing the footprint of the building or changing the number of bedrooms, and therefore you don't need to modify the wastewater system serving the house. So I think that was the point of that one, but yeah, I think you're right. I had to read that a couple times too.
I think, and Kyle, you can maybe help with this, but I think that Megan's description is exactly what the number 19 in 2.2 was intended to exempt: the creation of an ADU within an existing structure, provided that it did not change the footprint. And so Dan, once you know what we're talking about, the definition works, am I right? Or can you
Yeah,
suggest?
yeah,
a
no,
tweak?
once I got there, but I've been trying to figure out how to reword it and I haven't quite gotten there yet. And you might not be able to, that might be the problem. But yeah, I read it probably 3 or 4 times and came back to it and made a note and did it again before I figured out what was going on. And it works. It just, at this point, I don't know how to clarify it, I guess is my.
Yeah, and I think that's some of what the planning commission ran into several times on these things, including Megan, we'll come back to yours on the RVs and campers. And it gets tricky to say all this in a condensed version that communicates the point. But my suggestion on yours, Dan, if it's all right, is that we leave it as is, since none of us have an immediate way to restate it that makes it clearer. And again, these are things that we can.
No, no, no. I'm not asking to. I'm not asking to change it. As long as everybody else could get around to it too. I just wanted to make sure that. I just want to sort of feel justified in that it took me a minute and it wasn't just me. But I don't know that we can fix it or should fix it right now. If it needs to be fixed, that's something to be done later. It
Agreed.
works. It just takes a minute to figure out that it works.
Yeah.
Not just you.
So for the RV one, I was wondering if Kyle or Jackson or maybe Lou, if you were privy to these conversations, if one of you could explain to me the difference or the different intent between number 7 and number 13 on this list, both having to do with, I think, trailers or RVs of some kind, both not exceeding 180 days within a calendar year in terms of being placed on a property. I was having a hard time understanding the difference between 7 and 13.
Megan, I do think that they're largely redundant and they're in the current bylaw right now. It's something I had flagged as thinking maybe in a prior bylaw update they had both been included, but to me they largely read the same. So I think and I think I had recommended at one point one of these could be removed. Um, but it wasn't high on the priority list in terms of substantive changes that needed to get done. So I think it just fell through the cracks. But it's in the bylaw right now and doesn't seem to have
Yeah,
caused any issues.
I totally appreciate that. I do think that this is an issue that comes up somewhat frequently. Just in the last year, we had, I think on more than one occasion, folks come to a select board meeting and report that they were, seeing this type of occurrence where there's a camper or something that's being occupied for a period longer than 180 days, and kind of asking the select board or the zoning administrator to investigate the situation or to act further. And so I think that this is actually a provision that does come up frequently. At least as long as I've been on the board, it feels like it's come up a handful of times. And when I was looking at 7 and 13, the distinction that I think I identified, and I tried to clarify this by adding the word unoccupied to number 7, is that in 13 it seems to indicate that there is a temporary habitation going on in relation to an RV or a travel trailer. Because not only does it's a temporary habitation in number 13, but it also says that they need to be placed on the property in compliance with setbacks. So it's almost kind of indicating that it's okay for them to be on the property and be occupied, but it just can't be for over 180 days within a calendar year. and that they need to be in conformance with the setbacks in the bylaw. And then I thought maybe 7 was in relation to an RV that someone just owns, but maybe only uses 2 weeks out of the year, and so otherwise it's parked in their driveway, no one's living there. Cause I don't really see any of those actually speaking to that particular occurrence. Like if I own an RV that I use for a week out of every year, that leaves my property for a week out of every year, but otherwise it's parked in my driveway, it's unoccupied, no one's using it. I might read this and say I'm in violation of the bylaw because I have that vehicle parked there. So that's something that could be, I think, clarified. And maybe my addition of the word unoccupied was not appropriate. And that was what I was kind of flagging as being maybe the substantive change that I might have made, so.
And Megan, Jackson, I don't know if you want to jump in here too, but I think if you're hitting on one of the distinctions that I think the Planning Commission was trying to address. And in the instance that you say where you own an RV, it's parked on your property, but you only use it 1 week a year, it is fully registered, right?
Right.
So you can keep it there because it's fully registered. You can keep it there all 365 days because of the or fully registered.
Okay, and that was, I guess, since you mentioned that, Lou, I did replace the word license with registered because I assume that what was meant there was like a valid and current motor vehicle registration for that trailer or RV. Is that correct?
Correct. I believe that is correct.
Okay. I just
The
want to make
other-
sure there wasn't another type of licensing that I was missing.
Can I
Yeah,
ask how that applies to tents then? Because obviously you're registering a camper trailer, you're registering a recreational vehicle, but you're not registering a tent. I feel like
Right.
the register doesn't really apply, or is that quote unquote unoccupied structure?
Right, so I think that exemption, whereas Lou's saying that if it's fully registered and ready for immediate use, then you can keep it there for long, like, you can, like, it will meet that hypothetical that I just laid out, where I own an RV, but I only use it for 1 week out of the year, and otherwise it's parked in my driveway, but it's fully registered, meaning that I could jump in it tomorrow and drive down the road lawfully. And so I think that the bylaw is getting at, like, it's a mobile thing that is like lawful to travel with. So therefore it's less likely to be parked on someone's land and occupied unlawfully.
It's gonna be registered and inspected. And
Right.
but,
Right, yeah. So. Yeah, I feel like I've opened up a can of worms that maybe we didn't want to open this evening, so I'm sorry.
No, this came up at one of the last planning commission meetings, these two, number 7 and 13.
Yeah.
I'm happy to chime in and just we spent an unruly amount of time going back and forth with these very two things, and we got into the same kind of word jungles that you're falling into. And we did our best working with Kyle to come up with something that felt like it addressed the root of what we're trying to get at. But yeah, it's not perfect for sure.
Did you, Jackson or Kyle, did you look at any other examples, of, how other towns handle this and what wording they might use?
I didn't. I don't know if anybody else on the planning commission did. I'm not sure if Kyle pulled some language from someplace else or not.
I have not. Both of these are in the current bylaws, so the changes are really around, consecutive and license. It's essentially those track changes in some of those track changes that you see. I have seen in at least one other bylaw where they have a section, and I'm pulling from distant memory here. It's just a short provision on, just saying campers, mobile homes are allowed on a property where the principal use is residential. Like, you can park your camper in your driveway. You can't use it for more than, or on site for more than this X period of time.
Yeah, that
and
sounds very clear. I like that.
yeah, so you could just go that route and say you can park your camper on your driveway or on, on your residential property, but don't be living in it. You could
Right.
you could go that route.
If it is a camper and you got it parked on your property, don't you have to have a septic system hitched up to it as well after so many months, the state gets involved?
Right. I think that that's what we're kind of trying to like fortify is the fact that these vehicles are not meant to be lived in for, permanent or like very long-term periods of time for that issue, that it becomes like an environmental issue at that point. Yeah, so I did, so my changes that you're looking at, I think the ones in red were the ones that were included in the bylaw that was transmitted, and then the ones that are in blue are the ones that I added. And so I'm wondering if maybe I can remove this unoccupied addition that I made, since it seems like maybe that wasn't the intent of number 7, excuse me, initially. And we could just, move forward with some of the clarifying changes that I tried to make here with like the registration versus license and just kind of sentence structure.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yes, my own thinking is, and Jackson, if you could listen in here, is that we should eliminate Megan's unoccupied word that begins here, because that changes what I think everybody was talking about. We were talking about occupied structures, right? So I think that would be a substantive change, Megan. But I think everything else that Megan changed just helps to smooth out the language a little bit, does not make a substantive change. And so I think that Megan's changes help clarify everything. The one thing I'll just add here is that the unknown here is what Chelsea raised, which is tents. We're talking about all the vehicles, the RVs and camper trailers and everything, but yurts and whatnot are included here. And so just pointing out that that's another major distinction between 7 and 13, is that 7 includes tents.
Yeah.
So I think we, as you've changed this on the board, Megan, I think we should make those changes to the planning commission's draft and submit that. And those are non-substantive changes that help clarify it a little bit. But Jackson, I'm eager to hear your thought on that as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know we wrangled. Yeah, like I said, I'm just reading this again to make sure. I would agree. I mean, I don't want to speak for the entire planning commission, but I think that the changes don't substantively change what is here. So I would agree.
Okay.
So should I make a motion?
No, I don't
Okay.
think we need to do that. I mean, maybe at the end of the discussion,
Yep.
I mean, I guess I'm representing the edits that I made over the weekend is in my opinion is being clarifying and non-substantive, and I'm a little reluctant to kind of print this out and make this the copy that we make available to the public for the November 4th hearing, if not everyone has had a chance to look and say like, oh yeah, Megan just was clarifying. She's not, proposing any crazy changes. I don't know if I feel comfortable like moving forward with this particular draft that I worked on. And I know we don't have time to take a look at everything tonight. But I don't know if you all trust me, you believe that I only made clarifying changes. I don't know. I will not be offended if anyone wants to speak up and say, nope, I haven't had time to read it. Sorry, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, I have not had time to read it because I'm in an awkward situation with my family and I have not had access. I tried to get access. I can't get Word. There's no computer in this hotel that I'm stuck in, and I have not had a chance to really look at it. And so I wouldn't, I would be comfortable accepting your changes, Megan, but I don't want to put that on your shoulders. So I might suggest that we simply make the changes that we just discussed to number 7, and work forward with your draft. Again, I would be comfortable on your representation, but I have to let everyone know I have not had the chance to review it.
I've made it through to like 688. I haven't made it all the way, but I mean, looking at the edits you made, in comparison to the original and the red line that came from Kyle, I didn't see that any of them were super sensitive. I had 3 or 4 more that I found that it wanted to talk about wording and stuff,
Okay.
and some, repetition in places that could be cut out where I don't think it meant to be there. I think it was a copy paste thing that got messed up, but I didn't see anything in your edits that changed the meaning in any way materially that I could figure out.
Okay, Daniel, do you want to talk about the places that you identified, or is
Yeah.
that, okay,
Yeah, I'll try my best. I had a few that I think are sort of material changes that I won't go into, but one of the things that I did was at Megan's suggestion in a draft that I had, and I didn't send this around, was it seemed that several times, and it got fixed a lot between the 3 copies I saw, zoning administrator and administrative officer were used interchangeably, and there's no definition for what a zoning administrator is, only the administrative officer. So whatever we put out as the final, we need to make sure there's no zoning administrator listed, unless there's 2 positions here, and we got to talk about that. In
yeah,
5.2, there's something going on there, maybe some missing wording, because it says additional information shall require, and that was it. And that sentence doesn't make sense to me.
hold on, I'm just trying to get there.
I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, sorry.
That's okay. Well, Dan, just going back to your other comment about zoning administrator versus administrative officer. I mean, I feel like that could be maybe addressed somewhat easily for now in the definition section, and just stating like the terms administrative officer and zoning administrator will be used, interchangeably throughout this document, but mean the same thing. Something like
Yeah, you
that.
could do that, but if we don't have to, if we can just make it all one or the other, then you don't have to do that, and people don't have to remember that and have it click in their head. I mean, if we're trying to make this simple, don't make them remember that. Make it one or the other. And I don't think you're changing anything materially if they are obviously the same person. Just get rid of one of those designations. I mean, you're adding a complexity that doesn't have to be there. If you define the administrative officer, just let that be the person all the way.
Yeah, right.
That's just a find and replace that
Yeah.
perhaps.
And it's fairly
Yeah.
simple. I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page. That, to me, you're adding just one, and it's really, really small, but it's one more complicating factor that somebody's got to be like, oh yeah, that's that same person. It's not a different
Okay.
individual.
I think that's really
Well-
helpful.
Would the board be comfortable with me doing that exercise offline later this evening of going through this draft and doing a find and replace for those terms, and attempting to make it so that every time one of those terms is stated, it says administrative officer, or as is abbreviated sometimes throughout the document, AO? Would that be something that folks are okay with me doing in terms of how we present this draft to the public?
Yes.
Yes,
It's not a ton. I think it's like less than 10, but it's enough that you're, and it makes it worse when it's only like 5 or 10, because you go, wait, what's going on here? Is this something different? You know what I mean? If it was, it's just one of those little glitches that, I don't know, maybe I'm weird.
Okay, and you said 5.2, Daniel? What?
Yeah, there's a sentence there that says additional information shall require. And I don't know what that means.
I think that, I think, Kyle, maybe you can recall this. I think that may have been one of the typographical changes or typographical errors that I pointed out back a few meetings ago. And maybe we just missed eliminating that. I think that was a typographical remainder on the end of that paragraph, as I recall.
I'm sure it was because I got another one here that looks like the same thing.
So I think we can delete that without affecting substance at all. And again, I think that was one that I identified earlier on, Kyle.
Is this, I guess, I'm not
It may have
seeing
been fixed. It may have been fixed in a draft that I don't have.
The one that I see, it's already fixed.
Okay.
I think I think it's been.
No, it's
fixed.
right there. It says right there,
currently
in addition to the information requested on the form, additional information shall require.
survey,
surveys.
site plans, or drawings sufficient.
Yeah, but that's not worded right. Additional information shall require. The information can't require it. Who's requiring it?
Oh, I see what you're saying, Dan. Okay.
The information can't require those things. Someone has to.
Okay. All right. In addition to the information requested on the form, additional information, how about may include
or may be
or shall
required,
include,
may be required.
such
But you
as?
can't say maybe. You can't say maybe required and then list things. It's required by whom? You're not saying who's requiring it.
Well, to enable the AO or the development review board to adequately review the proposed land development.
Then you got to say that, but you don't. You just can't say the information shall require all these things because the information doesn't require it. Someone does. Or you say, like Megan said, information may be required in the form of whatever.
Yeah. I don't know if folks can see what I'm typing here, but does that look better? So
Yes.
it reads, in addition to the information requested on the form, additional information may be required in the form of survey, site plans, or drawings sufficient to enable the AO or DRB to adequately review the proposed land development.
Sounds
Excellent.
good.
Okay. All right, what's the next one, Dan?
In 6.2, I think the term conditional use, or sorry, 6.1, it says conditional use a couple of times, sort of, there's like a phrase repeated there that I think needs to go away. Again, I don't have this in front of me. I'm like walking into swim team at the moment, looking at notes on the page.
That's okay. Sorry, say again, what
In
is?
6.1, there's, let's see, you're here, you got it up on screen.
Mm-hmm.
It says it
Okay.
twice. The development review board must approve the conditional use approval by the development or review board is required. That makes that's got to be fixed.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know how we do that.
Just eliminate the one of them.
Yeah. In 6.6, the terminology goes back to the old one that I think they were trying to eliminate. It says multifamily and single family and so on and so forth. When everywhere else it says unit. It seems like they were trying to remove the family thing and get to units.
Correct.
Sorry, go tell me what section you're in. I was making the change.
6.6.
Okay, what about 6.6?
They're using one family, two family, multifamily, whenever else in the document. I think it's 1 unit, 2 unit, or single unit, so on and so forth. They're trying to move away from the family and it's unit everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, there are places in the bylaw that treat duplexes or two-family homes different than
No, I'm not saying
multifamily.
that. No, I'm not saying they're treating them differently. I'm saying the word family is used there and it's used nowhere else.
No.
Or
it-
else it's a single
Say
unit
unit.
or a double unit
Correct.
or a multi-unit.
Gotcha.
Perfect change.
Okay, all right.
That was the only one of
let's-
those I saw. There might be more, but I'd have to find it.
Okay, I can do a find.
Yeah, let's see. 6.8.3. Number 2. I just have wording there. I don't know what that is. I have to look at it again. I was kind of doing these late at night.
Okay, home enterprise.
Yeah, I understand what that's getting at. It's just the wording of that is difficult for me. But it's kind of I don't know how to fix it yet.
Which
Gotta
which
think
part
about
of it were you
It
focusing
just,
on?
there shall not be more than 5 on-premises employees who do not reside on the property. I don't know if it means like an also or something on there or what. It just, something about that feels incomplete.
Who
I
also
don't
do
know how to-
not property?
Who do not also reside on the property? I don't know. I'm still trying to. Hold on a second. I gotta step off for a minute.
Okay,
Sorry, I'm on a Zoom meeting at the same time. No, it's gonna go for another hour or two.
all right, I'm sorry, I muted Daniel. Sorry, Daniel.
There
Um,
shall on premises employees. Yeah, I think I don't think that also clarifies it. I believe the intention here was in response to a public comment. And what was added, as I recall, though I don't see it in the track changes, was the on premises. I believe it used to say there shall not be more than 5 employees
Yeah,
who do not reside on the premises. And we wanted to make it clear, it's like you may have employees who aren't working there, right? Who aren't on the shift right now, right? So we wanted just to make sure we were talking about for the home enterprise that you could have 500 employees on your employee list, but you can only have 5 on premises in addition to those who live on site. And again, it's cumbersome language, but I think it makes the point without that new also that you've just added.
okay, yeah, I see what you're saying, Lou. That's helpful background. Thank you.
Right, Chelsea, did I get that right?
yeah, you got that right.
Okay. And does that language get at that to you? Do you think that says?
I think it's more clear than the bylaws were originally, because
Yeah.
they definitely could have been read either way.
So I think again, and this is a perfect example of how difficult it is to write one of these things and the heavy lift that the planning commission accomplished here. It's like every line is really, really fraught. But hopefully, Dan, if you're listening in yet, I think that gets at what the planning commission was trying to accomplish in response to a public comment. And I think it's pretty close. It is a little cumbersome, but you can't read it any other way than was intended. It's hard to read. You got to read it a couple times.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the one that had the previous wording on it.
Okay, I think Daniel had to step out for a second, but I do think he meant, maybe said that was the last one. I don't know, but yeah, so I guess like I said a few minutes ago, I won't be offended if folks aren't comfortable making this draft the one that is officially available for the November 4th hearing, given that folks haven't had a chance to look through it. So I really defer to to you all, in terms of how you want to proceed. And if we, if we do need to make additional changes, or if there's other, kind of clarifying changes after the hearing, I think that we could still have the opportunity to hustle through those and if we work really, really, really quickly, get to the end of the year or get to the end of the process before the end of the year. So I think, we both might have another opportunity, but,
Well, I don't think there's any harm. I think we should publish the draft that includes your changes, Megan. Because in the event there is anything substantive, we can change it after public comment. But I'm not being I'm trying not to be irresponsible here, but I'm sure, I know you were just trying to make clarifying changes. And the ones that we're seeing are that, save the one you flagged. So I would like to have the public have the advantage of the work that you did in addition to the work that the planning commission did. So I would suggest that we leave your changes in and give those to the public.
Actually did
Okay.
have the opportunity to go through everything. And yeah, I agree with Lou. I don't think that any of the changes made were large enough to, trigger going back to the planning commission for. I agree with Lou that we should just push your changes forward.
Okay, well, I feel better knowing that Chelsea looked at them, at least. Thank you, Chelsea.
You're welcome.
That makes me feel better. I don't like being off on my own in these interpretations, so I appreciate you. Okay, well, I think with that, unless there are any other things that folks wanted to flag for discussion tonight, we can move forward with the intent of meeting the deadline by the end of the year and kind of moving forward with a variety of revisions that allow us that facilitate meeting that deadline. I know the planning commission put in a lot of extra hours, with the intent of, putting in the town in a position to meet that deadline. So I definitely want to honor that and honor their hard work in that. So, and Kyle, not just planning commission, Kyle as well. So I guess I would make a motion then that, the draft that I distributed on Monday evening with the changes that we've discussed tonight, including doing a find and replace for administrative officer and zoning administrator and making that consistent. And then also doing a find and replace for instances where single family or two family should say single unit or 2-unit. I can also do that, as Daniel had flagged. And we can make that draft available to the public for the purposes of the November 4th hearing.
Second.
All right, that was a long motion. Sorry, Paul. Any discussion?
No,
No,
All right. Great. Kyle, does that sound good to you process wise? Like, just want to make sure we're not out of our lane here.
In terms of going forward with the draft and the changes that everyone's proposed to approve or move forward with. Yeah, that's fine. And if the rest of the changes are non-substantial, then they could just be, it could entail cleanup after the hearing. So.
Right, okay. Right, so we'll have the opportunity at the hearing to make additional non-substantive changes that wouldn't require like a heightened degree of process.
But yeah, following the hearing. So, and for non-substantive, it is just like clarifying words here or there. It's formatting. It's, oh, we should have said administrative officer versus zoning administrator. Like these are obvious things. It's just cleaning up. Substantive would be, oh, we're actually changing the lot size in this zoning district.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah, I definitely did not do that. All right. Okay, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion that's before the board?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright,
Okay. Anything else to discuss before we adjourn?
Nope.
Okay. Then, we can adjourn and, I'll see everyone next Tuesday. We have a regular meeting. And yeah. I think that's it.
motion adjourned.
All right, Lauren has made a motion to adjourn. I will second it. All those in favor?
Alright.
Hey.
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Good night.
thanks
Good
everyone.
night, folks. Yep,
Have a
thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you, everyone.